Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and today we're going to be going over the all-new 2020 Chrysler 300S. A huge shout out and thank you to the Larry H. Miller Dodge Ram Jeep Chrysler here in Provo, Utah for providing us with the Chrysler 300. Check out their inventory in the link below if you're in the market for a new Dodge, Ram, Jeep, or Chrysler. Let's get into the video. Under the hood here of the Chrysler 300S Alloy Edition, we have a 3.6 liter V6 that goes to an 8-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 19 around town and 30 on the highway, with power outputs being 300 horsepower and then 264 foot-pounds of torque. Let's go over things on the front end of this 300 Alloy Edition. First and foremost, it has a hood just like any other Chrysler 300. Now, things that you will note is the actual headlight bezels themselves are kind of a little bit blacked out, and then I have the lights on so you can see the projector bulbs with those little LED accents, and then the whole front grille is kind of like blacked out, but the Chrysler logo is still finished in chrome. Do get fog lights there at the very bottom of the bumper, but again, this looks pretty much like any other Chrysler 300. Popping around the side here, we've got these 20-inch dark bronze aluminum wheels with 245mm tires on them, and I think these wheels complement the body of the car just so well. You've got the ocean blue metallic paint and then the bronze rims, and yeah, I think it just all pulls together very nicely. Everything in the back is the same, and then here's your side profile on the 300 Alloy Edition. Here is our key fob for the 300. You've got the Chrysler logo on the back. You have your unlock, your lock function, and then you've got the trunk release to remote start. You can press the remote start twice. First time we'll lock it, and second time we'll start up that V6. A little bit throaty for a V6. You can obviously see me in the reflection there. Hold that down again though, and that'll shut it all off, and then obviously we're gonna press this to open up the trunk. Now, looking into the trunk here, it is absolutely massive. You can fold those seats down if you need, but just the opening here is really big and there's a ton of space. You would expect this with a sedan this size. Well, if I can pick this up, there we go. You've got the spare tire just underneath, and it just catches on that little part I've noticed. But yeah, there is the whole kind of like trunk section. It's massive and done. Now, wrapping things up in the rear of this 300S, you have the 300 signature LED taillights, obviously the Chrysler logo on the back, and then it does say 300S on the rear as well. You got the dual outlet exhausts right there, and then there are parking sensors in this back. But here's kind of like a close-up look at those lights, kind of just everything that's happening there. Opening up the door of the 300S, this is the biggest difference between this and a Charger. You've got this really nice leather padding there with the contrasted stitching, and then you got some trim up top. And here are the seats in the rear, and nice leather seats. They've got nice perforations on them. In terms of just how they feel, relatively soft. This part here is pretty soft on top of that, and then this is a little like armrest, center console, cup holder area. And then the rear passengers do get a little thing obviously for the seats, and then you do get a rear shade, which is kind of interesting, but it's cool that they added that, and then a couple USBs. Now we are going to pop in here, so kind of got to duck a little bit to get in, but once I'm back here, it's actually pretty comfortable. So I've got a good amount of leg room back here, and then I'm about 5'11", so in terms of headroom, I mean, I'm almost touching the top, so headroom's a little bit cramped, but I mean, again, I'm still pretty comfortable back here. Now coming up to the front, one touch to lock it, and then to unlock it, just hold that down. And then this particular one does have the blind spot monitoring system on it. Now the door panel in the front looks pretty much identical to the one in the rear. The only difference is you do get the controls for like the windows and mirrors. Do have memory seats for the front. Now here are these seats in the front. They do have the S logo there at the top of them. Nicely bolstered, and the leather on it's very smooth to the touch. Now the controls for the seats are on the side right there, and it is fully power. There are your pedals here in the 300S, all the light controls, and then the steering wheel is actually automatically adjustable. To start the 300S, all you have to do is put your foot on the brake, push the push start. It'll say 300 there in the center. Gauges will do a sweep, and everything will come to life. Here is the steering wheel in the 300. Now, yes, we've got the Chrysler logo there in the center, obviously. Cruise controls on this side. The other side is the controls for the little center stack. Then you got like your voice command and phone controls. There is more of that contrasted stitching. It's kind of like bronze in color, obviously, to match the rims. There are paddles on the back of the steering wheel to control the 8-speed automatic manually. And then you do have radio controls just underneath those paddles. Here's the gauge cluster. I actually really like the look of it. You've got RPMs on the left side, on the right side you've got the speed. And then you do have that little screen that you can scroll through a couple different menus here on the 300S. It's just like all of Chrysler's upgraded vehicles, just everything in general with FCA But yeah, I really like the look of the gauges. I think it's a nice clean look, especially with the blue accenting. Here's the center infotainment system, and then note there is a little clock there, obviously, to add some luxury look to it. Now we are going to show the backup camera first, and it's got little trajectory lines on it. The resolution on it is pretty good. I mean, you guys can see that. Now, the rest of the infotainment system, it's just like all of Chrysler's other upgraded infotainment systems. I still love that little thing right there. It's just funny to me that you've got a rear shade in a car like this, but I mean, I get it. It's supposed to be kind of like your luxury thing. But yeah, you can see you got heated and vented seats, and then you've got the rest of the touchscreen itself. Response time on it is really solid. The navigation, here's what that looks like. You can see you're here in Provo, Utah. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all she wrote for the infotainment system. Now here are all the analog controls for like the radio and the climate controls. It is a dual zone climate, so you have a separate climate for the passenger and the driver. Now note that there is that little sport button. You can press that basically to turn it into sport mode, and then that'll actually pop up there on the center screen with a little racing flag. Make the transmission a little bit more responsive. There's this little storage area with a 12 volt, so you can charge, and it is actually covered in felt back there, which is pretty interesting, but feels nice. This is the shifter. It is a dial shifter, so that is your drive, and then this is if you want to actually shift the gears manually. Now you do have to push it down to get into the manual mode, so you have to like really be committed that you are going to want to go into manual shifting mode here in the 300. Got a couple cup holders here, and you can cover it up with this little tab. There's the center console, and opening it up again, lined with felt, tons of little charging stations and coin holders. Some more black trim up here, and then lowering this down again, more felt. And one thing I want to mention is they do have this material up here on the dash, but then they did put a little bit of stitching up here, so that definitely makes it look just a little bit nicer. Up top, we've got all of our controls for the lights. You just click them on and off. Universal garage door openers. The one thing that's cool is this does have a full panoramic sunroof. You can't get that in the Chargers, so if you want a panoramic sunroof, you do have to get a Chrysler 300, and yeah, that's the top for you. Now let's quickly go over pricing on this particular Chrysler 300. So this particular Chrysler 300 in the Alloy Edition stickers for about $44,000. The coolest thing is this Alloy Edition package only costs about $700, which that might sound like a lot, but you get these 20-inch bronze rims, which, I mean, the $700 already covers what the rims would normally cost if you'd like added 20-inch rims to a car, and then you get the extra stuff like this kind of like nice embroidering on the seats and all that. So I actually think the package is a good deal. Anyways, let's take this Alloy Edition out and see how it drives. Talk about visibility before we set off here in the 300S Alloy Edition. Now, visibility of the hood, if you've ever driven a Charger, I mean, it's pretty much identical. There's visibility through the mirror and the other mirror, and again, it's got the blind spot monitoring, which is a nice little touch. And then here is visibility all throughout the rear. That back window is a little bit cramped, but I mean, it's actually not bad by any means. And yeah, the view at the panoramic sunroof is always fun. Well, we actually already are in drive, so we are going to set off now in this 300. And the first thing I want to mention is this car definitely drives smaller than it is. It is a big sedan, but it feels a lot smaller than that, and it's a very easy car to drive and maneuver, just in general. The other thing that I noticed is the steering is really it's very light, but it's also pretty direct, and I'll talk about it again more in a moment. But yeah, the steering is really direct. I was surprised by that. Now, initially setting off here in the 300, let's talk about road noise and ride quality. Now, first and foremost, in terms of road noise, it's definitely very quiet here in the cabin. In terms of the ride quality, it is exceptionally smooth. Definitely luxury tuned. I mean, you can for sure tell on that this is a luxury car. It's just such a smooth, comfortable ride experience. And now we can actually talk about maneuvering again, because we're going through this roundabout. Yeah, I mean, it's just the steering is so direct. You just put a little bit of input into it and it kind of goes right where you want it to. It's just not expected with such a large sedan like this. But I guess just to sum things up on that road noise and ride quality segment is Chrysler has done a good job at making this feel like a luxury car. Let's get our little acceleration here in the 300. Takes a second. Yeah, that 3.6 liter V6 is pretty solid. The one thing that I will say is if you live in a climate where you don't need all-wheel drive and you can go for the Hemi, that 5.7 liter Hemi would be so much stronger in this car, and it would definitely feel just super solid. And I guess that's gonna lead me to wrapping things up with the 300. Like I said before, it definitely is really solid for a luxury car. I mean, it's got a rear shade. That's all you really need to qualify as a luxury car, am I right? But yeah, smooth ride quality. The engine's smooth enough. If you got the Hemi, it would be even smoother. Obviously, you would get more power on top of that. But yeah, I mean, everything about this car is just, it's comfortable. It really is a very good, what you call like a GT cruiser. It's a car you could put a ton of miles on. You could drive everywhere very, very comfortably. And yeah, if you're in the market for a luxury car and you don't want to spend $100,000 for some BMW or Audi or Mercedes, check out this Chrysler 300. That is gonna sum things up for our video on the Chrysler 300S Alloy Edition. As always, again, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry H. Miller Dodge Ram Jeep Chrysler here in Provo, Utah for providing us with this 300. Check out the inventory in the link below if you're in the market for new Chrysler. If you're stopping for the first time, please subscribe. I'll see all of you in that next video.